Hey, no long intro. Louis C.K.
Some parents really struggle with, like, all the other kids have the terrible things, so my kid has to. Yeah, let your kid go and be a better example to the kids. Just because the other stupid kids have phones doesn't mean that, okay, well, my kid has to be stupid, otherwise she'll feel weird.
Right.
You know, I think these things are toxic. Especially for kids. It's just this thing. It's bad, and
Right.
they don't look at people when they talk to them, and they don't build the empathy. You know, kids are mean, and it's because they're trying it out. They look at a kid and they go, "You're fat," and then they see the kid's face scrunch up, and they go, "Ooh, that doesn't feel good to make a person do that."
Right.
But they got to start with doing the mean thing. But when they write "you're fat," then they just go, that was fun. I like that." So.
That tasted good.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, you need to build an ability to just be yourself and not be doing something. That's what the phones
Yes.
are taking away.
Yes.
Is the ability to just sit there, like this. That's being a person, right?
Yes.
No one can. You gotta check, because underneath everything in your life, there's that thing, that empty, forever empty. You know what I'm talking about? That.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes, I
Just
know what you're
that
talking about.
knowledge that it's all for nothing and you're alone. You know, it's down there. And sometimes when things clear away, you're not watching it, you're in your car and you start going, "Oh no, here it comes," that I'm alone, like it starts to visit on you. You know, just the sadness.
Yes.
Life is tremendously sad just by being in it. And so you're driving, and then you go, that's why we text and drive. I look around, pretty much 100% of people driving are texting.
Yes.
And they're killing, everybody's murdering each other with their cars.
Yes.
But people are willing to risk taking a life and ruining their own because they don't want to be alone for a second, because it's so hard. I was in my car one time, and a Bruce Springsteen song comes on. And it made me really sad. It's like Jungle, what's the one, Jungle song?
Jungleland.
It's one where he goes, "Hey!" and he sounds far away. You know, it's like,
That's half. Wait.
I know which one.
yeah, a lot of them.
No, he goes. Yeah,
exactly. And it's really far away sounding. Yeah. Can you do it with the reverb? Can you do, "Hey, hey"? No, they're not doing it.
They're not. Right. Right.
So.
Like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Except for it was Springsteen. If it was you doing that, I would have been like, "What the hell is that in my radio?" But it was Springsteen.
I did it just the same
Yes.
as Bruce.
And I heard it, and it gave me kind of like a fall back to school depression feeling. It made me really sad.
Yeah.
And I go, "Okay, I'm getting sad. I got to get the phone and write hi to like 50 people." And then, somebody cool writes back, and then somebody not as cool writes after, and I'm like, "Oh, you, I'm not gonna." I got somebody better. But
Hey, how come you didn't answer my text?
speaking of which, because he wrote first. That's fine. So, anyway, I started to get that sad feeling, and I was reaching for the phone. Then I said, "You know what? Don't. Just be sad. Just let the sadness just stand in the way of it and let it hit you like a truck." And I let it come, and Bruce, and I just started to feel, oh my God. And I pulled over and I just cried like a bitch. I cried so much. And it was beautiful. It was like this beautiful, it's just this, sadness is poetic. You're lucky to live sad moments. And then I had happy feelings because when you let yourself feel sad,
Yes.
your body has like antibodies. It has happiness that comes
Rushing in
to meet the sadness. So I was grateful to feel sad, and then I met it with true, profound happiness. It was such a trip, and the thing is, because we don't want that first bit of sad, we push it away with like a little phone for the food, and you get a little kind of. You never feel completely sad or completely happy. You
Right.
just feel kind of satisfied with your product.
Yes.
And then you die. So that's why I don't want to get a phone for my kids. That's what I'm
It didn't make me laugh as much as it made me nod. because it was thought-provoking. Some parts I completely agree with. And this was a subscriber request, so thank you for that. It's actually my first time watching Louis C.K. It was a good appetizer, and the conversation seemed genuine. There's something about taking a valid yet socially accepted issue and rolling it into comedy for some relief. Now, I don't have kids, so what I'm about to say is not based on personal experience, just an observation I have from looking at the young people in my life. But I noticed that as modern day children are raised with such an early exposure to phones and other forms of technology, and it becomes sometimes their preferred means of communication, they're losing the element of connection and consequence that comes with real life conversation. He brought up a good point that sometimes it is easier for people to say something mean online because they don't have to face the person or their reaction. Televisions and iPads and chat rooms and Zoom, phones. The pandemic has just accelerated the shift. I read a study from, I think it was Common Sense Media, that found that screen time was up 17% for children since 2019, with 8 to 12-year-olds clocking 5.5 hours of screen time per day, and then 13 to 19-year-olds with 9 hours or more of screen time a day. Now, what the study didn't specify is whether that person's school was online, but I'll assume that at least a portion of that time is school-related, or learning-related, one would hope. And as always, read more than one study before coming to any sort of meaningful conclusion. So that leaves me with the question of how young is too young to give your child a phone? Parents, please weigh in. Or let me know how old you were when you got your first phone. I believe I was 8. So I'm just on the cuff of this. I'm young enough to remember going outside and playing with my neighbors as a form of entertainment or doing puzzles. But that being said, I did have a phone relatively early. And at school, I was eventually given an iPad in place of physical textbooks, so I don't think that phones are toxic. Phones are just the physical object. It's the information consumed that could become toxic. And I think that has everything to do with the user, the apps, and the way a person interacts online. So for example, if you go online and get into an argument with other screen names, and then you get your feelings hurt by something that they said, I could see how that could become toxic for you. Anyway, that last bit I think was almost poetic from him. I too have reached down for my phone in order to not think about a deep thought that was creeping up on me. You? Phones give me conflicting feelings. I love the power of having the internet at my disposal. I couldn't tell you how many times a day in a conversation I would use it to ask a question or translate a word. Such a useful piece of technology. And I know that some of you are probably on your phones right now. In another part of the world from me, it's connecting us in a way that probably wouldn't be possible otherwise. So, the irony isn't lost on me. But at the same time, I don't like some of the side effects that it has on our society. For example, I dislike going to dinner and having a conversation with someone who's looking down with a broken neck at their phone, having a conversation with somebody else. It has me feeling like I'm in some sort of inception that's distorting the immediate reality. Or looking around the metro to see everybody looking down at their Black Mirrors. If you haven't seen Black Mirror on Netflix, I recommend it. It's a good one. But it's gotten to the point where when you go out with someone and they don't have their phone, it's uncommon, depending on where you live. As far as this conversation and this sort of comedy goes, from what I've seen, some of the best material comes from emotions and real-life experiences. Some of the subjects he touched on were a bit cloudy, but not dark and not depressing, at least not for me. But not much depresses me, so I'd watch him again. Drop any more specials of Louis C.K. that you would like to recommend to the channel, or maybe a comedian that also employs dark humor. And for today's literary recommendation, it's a book called The Swallows: What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains by Louis Carr. The title kind of speaks for itself. And it argues the thesis that although technology comes with many benefits to our society, it's ultimately detrimental to our communication. It's definitely one of those books that make you think, and I can honestly say that by the time I finished, I wasn't sure about whether I agreed with the conclusion or not. So, if you read it, you'll have to let me know. As always, if I can find the free audiobook version, I'll link that down in the bio. If not, you'll find the title. And that's all from me. Let me know what you think about any of this. And thank you for watching with me. Preview.